The date is February 24th, 2022.
Мною принято решение о проведении специальной военной операции.
Before sunrise, the silence is shattered by thunder. Not from the sky, but from engines, rockets, and fire.
We now have war in Europe on a scale we thought belonged to history. The Kremlin's intentions are clear for the world to see.
Russian tanks roar across Ukraine's borders, missiles carve trails of smoke above cities, and explosions hammer the earth like war drums. Moscow's promise is simple: Kyiv will fall in 3 days. The Ukrainian army, they say, will crumble in fear. Soldiers pack parade uniforms, confident they'll be marching in triumph through the capital by the weekend. But here is the twist. That parade never happened. Those 3 days became 3 years. The quick war became a grinding disaster. What was supposed to be Russia's grand victory has unraveled into its greatest nightmare. Do you still believe Russia will win? Watch this video until the end before making any predictions. Territory myths. All through 2025, Russian generals kept repeating the same story. We are winning more land, we are taking more towns, Ukraine is shrinking. They bragged about numbers, maps, and new borders. On paper, it looked huge. But when careful eyes studied the truth, a very different picture emerged. The Institute for the Study of War, known for tracking every mile of this war, assesses that Russia's top general, Valery Gerasimov, is inflating most of his claims. Their evidence shows that since March 1st, 2025, Russian forces have seized only 2,346 square kilometers of Ukrainian land and captured 130 small settlements.
The months-long build-up of Russian troops on the border with Ukraine has turned now into an invasion.
That sounds big until you realize it's less than 1% of Ukraine. And still, many believed Russia's long-awaited summer offensive in 2025 would change everything. Analysts predicted it would be the decisive campaign, the blow that would finally shatter Ukraine's resistance. Even Putin himself declared in March, "There are reasons to believe we can finish off Ukrainian forces." But as August gave way to September, reality struck. The big offensive collapsed. No major cities were taken. No breakthroughs were secured. Russia's total gains over the summer months? An estimated 0.3% of Ukrainian territory. Crucially, strongholds like Pokrovsk in eastern Ukraine remain firmly in Ukrainian hands. To understand how little this means, look at Ukraine's size. The country sprawls across 233,000 square miles, of which Russia already occupies about 19%. But here's the kicker. At the current rate of advance, Forbes calculated it would take Russia until the year 2256 to conquer the rest of Ukraine, and it would cost them over 101 million casualties. For perspective, Russia's entire population today is 144 million.
Right, let's start talking to our teams on the ground. First, it's Hoda Abdelhamid. She is in Kramatorsk in eastern Ukraine. Tell us about what you've been seeing and hearing, Hoda.
Well, certainly there is a bit of panic among people. Actually, while I was standing here waiting to talk to you, one woman came up to me asking me why I was wearing this gear and that we were actually frightening people even more by our presence in the city. Another one came up to me, showed me her credit card and said there is no more money in the cash machine. There are no dollars, there are no hryvnias, which is the local currency. And she did look, if you looked at her eyes, she did look quite panicked.
So, the myth of unstoppable Russian conquest began to crack. But if Russia was not winning much land, then what was it losing instead? The human cost. The price of these tiny gains has been blood, oceans of blood. Conservative counts say Russia has now lost more than 1 million men killed or wounded since 2022. Let that sink in. 1 million sons, brothers, and fathers. To make sense of that number, imagine every single person in a large city like San Jose or Austin disappearing. The scale is staggering. Russian funerals are booming. Coffins line up in villages. In places like Ufa, funeral businesses that once struggled are now overflowing with work. And still, the Kremlin hides the truth. Instead of showing families the real numbers, state TV calls the dead heroes and promises that their sacrifice has meaning. But can you call it meaning when the losses are 15 times greater than the Soviet war in Afghanistan, or 10 times greater than the bloody Chechen wars? This is the silent truth that few dare to speak. The blitzkrieg that failed. Now let us open another door. Remember how Russia promised a lightning strike, a blitzkrieg that would topple Ukraine in days? The plan was simple: storm Kyiv, kill or capture leaders, and break the spirit of the people. But when the first paratroopers landed at Hostomel Airport outside Kyiv, something unexpected happened. Ukraine was ready. Its soldiers fought with grit and skill. Convoys of Russian tanks were trapped in forests and narrow roads. Fuel trucks were blown apart. Hungry, cold, and surrounded, the unstoppable force turned into stranded columns of steel. In just a few weeks, Russia's blitzkrieg collapsed. It lost thousands of tanks, more than the armored power of entire European armies combined. By April 2022, instead of parading in Kyiv, Russia was retreating in shame, the army and its broken weapons. But that's not all. What happens when a great power loses its best machines faster than it can build them? You begin to see the cracks. By 2025, Russia had lost over 1,800 tanks, nearly 8,000 infantry fighting vehicles, hundreds of artillery pieces, and countless aircraft. The so-called second strongest army in the world was now dragging 50-year-old tanks from scrapyards. Soldiers were sent to battle in civilian cars, scooters, and even buses. In a modern war of drones, missiles, and precision strikes, Russia's military looked less like a superpower and more like a desperate museum. But broken tanks are not the only sign of collapse. Look at the soldiers themselves. As battles raged, hospitals across Russia filled with broken bodies, arms gone, legs torn away, faces scarred forever. The demand for prosthetic limbs skyrocketed. In 2024 alone, Russia's labor ministry reported over 150,000 artificial arms and legs distributed to the wounded. That was a 53% increase in just 1 year. Factories could barely keep up. By now, most of the clients are war veterans. Men once promised glory are returning home as shadows of themselves. Economic collapse. Even as Russia's soldiers break and run, another war is happening, one that cannot be fought with tanks or missiles. It is the war inside Russia's own economy. This war might be the one Putin cannot win. At first, the numbers looked strong. In 2024, Russia's economy seemed to grow faster than even the richest G7 countries. Oil sales to China and India kept money flowing. The Kremlin boasted about how the ruble was the best performing currency. On TV, they painted a picture of strength. But there was something they did not show. That growth was built on war spending, not real progress. It was a house made of cards, and in 2025, the wind began to blow. By early 2025, experts were warning that Russia was teetering on the brink of a recession. Growth fell sharply, inflation soared, and interest rates shot to 20%. Families found it harder to buy food. Companies could not borrow money. The government was draining its savings. The Great National Wealth Fund, once filled with over $130 billion, has now shrunk to just $35 billion. And here's the mystery: without money, how can Putin keep paying for the war? agricultural loss. But the bad news did not stop there. Nature itself turned against the Kremlin. Russia's harvest in 2025 was the worst in 17 years. Spring frost killed seedlings, and summer brought record heat and drought. Grain exports, one of Russia's lifelines, fell to the lowest level since 2008. Suddenly, the breadbasket of Eurasia looked empty. And when the bread runs short, even the strongest governments begin to stumble. Fuel crisis. Still, there is another twist, and this one comes from the skies. For 2 years, Ukraine has been sending waves of drones deep into Russian territory. They do not just hit empty fields, they strike oil refineries, pumping stations, and storage depots. In August alone, more than a dozen facilities burned. Some were among Russia's biggest. The damage is massive. Up to 20% of Russia's refining capacity has been destroyed or shut down. That means over 1 million barrels of fuel a day lost. Gasoline prices have soared by more than 50%. In Saratov, in Samara, even in far-off Vladivostok, drivers now wait in long lines for fuel. Stations run dry. The government has even ordered rationing. And here is the key question. What happens to an army when it runs out of gas? The Kremlin pretends to stay calm. They say defenses are working. They say the damage is minor. But ordinary Russians see the flames, smell the smoke, and feel the pain at the pump. Every drone strike is more than a hit on steel and oil. It is a strike at the illusion of control. So here we stand. Russia is bleeding on the battlefield. Its economy is shaking at home. Its harvest is shrinking. Its fuel is burning. And the people know, deep down, that something is cracking. Final thoughts, CTA. But if Russia is this weak, why does the war still drag on? What really keeps Putin in the fight? Fear, pride, or something darker? The truth is still hidden in the shadows, and only time will tell. What do you think is keeping this war alive? But what do you think? Like and share the video, and thanks for watching.